I want to watch this clip. Okay, we have Harmeet Dhillon. Do you guys know Harmeet Dhillon? She is the Assistant Attorney General. She is in charge of like civil rights stuff in Pam Bondi's administration. Okay, and here she is. Dude, she is a scoundrel. Now, I call her Fivehead. That's my little pet nickname for her. And me being a fellow, you know, I've got a hairline, so I feel like I could talk about it because I got one. But so I lay into her because she's fake, guys. Eventually, the Epstein files are coming out, and like these people are all ruining their careers, dude. But man, Fivehead, she's on a tear, boss. She is. Fivehead Dhillon. She is a scoundrel.
We will pursue charges in this case. I see various crimes that have occurred. Exactly what they are, I'm not going to flag, but the FACE Act has been mentioned as one of the predicates there. In other cases, the Biden DOJ used the Klan Act conspiracy charges tacked on to the FACE Act in the case of protests outside abortion clinics to bring much longer sentences. So there are a number of tools available to us. Who funded this? What else? What other crimes may have occurred? Was there a use of the wires or the mails in preparing for this event? Did anyone cross state lines to do this?
Yeah, like Kyle Rittenhouse. Look at her, dude! Look at her. Oh, she's so excited. Ooh, did anyone cross state lines? Oh, state lines. Dude, look at her. Retribution. Bro, if she could cut somebody's head off with a hacksaw, I think she would be so excited. She's got those Charlie Manson eyes, boss. Number one, what we're about to talk about is obviously Don Lemon. He was the journalist on scene at that church where you had some protesters. They discovered that the pastor of this church was also a high up ICE official and he had been hiding it. They're like, dude, a man of Jesus hiding, being an ICE guy. This guy's dishonest. So they go and protest the church. Now, immediately the MAGA people are like pissed off about this, which I personally, guys, I find this to be a little bit bullshit because when we look at what's going on, ICE has been raiding churches, okay? ICE had been going to churches and disrupting church worship services by dragging members out of churches. They did it in Arizona. They did it in California, in Downey. They did it in Atlanta. This has been a technique of theirs. And what's more, not a single right-winger took issue with ICE going in and breaking up worship services to drag immigrants out. Okay? They had no issue with it. They're fine with it. But now a handful of protesters go and protest ICE in a church, and they're like, whoa, holy shit. Now, guys, there are some laws about this. They're trying to prosecute them for the FACE Act. It was made for abortion clinics, right? Because people used to prevent women from getting into the clinics, or they used to bomb them, right? They used to throw Molotov cocktails in there. But it's saying that violence and intimidation in clinics and houses of worship. But here's the problem, okay, is nobody was damaging the place of worship. And I don't think anyone was using intimidation and threats. Like, this is really about violence, force, and threats. And having Don Lemon ask some probing questions to, he was a reporter covering it. So that's going to be tough getting him. But it's like the violence, right? And then the Klan Act is similar. The Klan Act is making it a federal crime to conspire to deprive citizens of their rights. And it was used about the Klan, like preventing people from voting. Okay, so they had to pass a law to get the Klan to stop hurting black people and using intimidation and military techniques, aka guns and threats of lynching, to prevent them from voting. But it's about the conspiring. So this is like they're trying to say that Don Lemon planned this thing with these guys to conspire to, obstruct the civil rights. But guys, the thing about these is the violence aspect, okay? And there was nothing about that thing that was violent in any way. They didn't even break a window.
What do you think of this?
I
mean, this is unacceptable. It's shameful. It's shameful to interrupt a public gathering of Christians in worship.
But there were folks who will say,
I have to take care of my flock.
Okay, but listen, we live there's a constitution in the First Amendment to freedom of speech and freedom to assemble and protest.
Yeah. We're here to worship. We're here to worship Jesus because that's the hope of these cities. That's the hope of the world is Jesus Christ.
I want to be very respectful. Please don't push me, though.
We're here to worship Jesus. Yes. That's why we're here.
Here's my issue, okay? And granted, I have a little bit of a slant. I don't love the church, guys. I find a lot of corruption and shit with this, and I'm not a believer anymore in Christianity. I've found my way out of the church. But I think what's interesting is this guy's not concerned because he said, dude, I'm here. I got to take care of my flock, right? You heard him say that about how he's got to take care of the flock. But here's the problem where this guy's being illegitimate. All right, you ready? Because this guy is not worried about one of the pastors being in ICE and potentially harming members of the flock by selling them out for mass deportation, potentially to a country they've never even been to and they don't speak the language. He's not concerned about his flock that an ICE interloper might be masking up and behaving like a Nazi and harming members of the congregation or harassing brown-skinned members of the congregation. He's not that concerned about the flock, but when the protesters show up, he's concerned about how the protest is going to affect the flock. And I find that to be a little bit disingenuous, because if you really cared about the flock, you'd be worried about this guy, okay? You'd be like, man, we got to do something about this guy. I mean, think about that, guys. Why isn't he concerned about that?
David Easterwood is a pastor here. He is also the director of the field office for ICE in St. Paul. So someone who claims to worship God, teaching people in this church about God, is out there overseeing ICE agents.
And masked
Think
up.
about what we've experienced. The murder of Renee Good at the hands of ICE. A Venezuelan national shot by ICE. A 6-month-old baby who
Tear
almost
gas.
died as a result of ICE unleashing military-grade weapons on our community.
Dude.
How dare you claim to be a pastor of God?
Dude, I love this woman. Who is this woman, man? This woman is like, dude, I love her.
And you are involved in evil in our community.
Do you think Jesus would be understanding?
We're about worship.
These folks.
We're about spreading the love of Jesus.
But did you try to talk to them?
No, church had gathered for worship, which we do every Sunday, and we were interrupted by this group of protesters.
Dude, what is with their eyes? Look at this guy's eyes, dude. Dude, why do they always look like serial killers? You know what I mean? Like, what is going on with these people? Dude, let me just show you. I'm not even joking with this comparison, guys. Tell me that is not the same goddamn look, bro. Those are the exact same eyes, guys. Okay? So I'm not joking, boss. But like, guys, that's the same shit. Those are the same eyes, bro.
By this group of protesters. Yeah. We asked them to leave, and they obviously have not.
So they're going to charge this, but again, will they be able to obtain a conviction? I don't think so. And I don't think they're going to be able to get Don Lemon at all. But again, though, guys, this isn't because something happened. This is like the sandwich thrower. And this is the fascism playbook, which is we're going to try to charge you with the craziest, most outrageous 20 years in prison thing because we want to scare you into no longer using your voice. We're going to bully you with the force of the government and threats of 30 years in prison to get you to be silent and compliant. And like, fuck them. Even if they do put Don Lemon in prison, there's going to be 50 more Don Lemons taking his place. You can't put us all in jail, Fivehead. Hate to burst your bubble there, but there's more of us than there are of you, Trump admin, and we're going to win this election, we're going to take the House back. We're going to start investigating all these clowns. This was a white nationalist target. If you go back in time during the civil rights movement, the KKK would go into black churches and they would people up. And there were bombings. There were all kinds of shit that the KKK did. Now, this is bullshit, okay, what they're doing, because first off, Don Lemon did not create that protest, okay? Don Lemon found out the protest was happening and he went and covered it. And he was a journalist, okay? But the thing about this, though, is they're choosing Don Lemon because he is black. And they announced using the KKK Act on a black man on MLK Day. And they did this on purpose, guys, okay? Because I've talked about this. I have talked about how Donald Trump and Project 2025 and this entire thing, this entire white Christian nationalist thing is payback. It is literally just the people that were upset that they were forced to desegregate. They were forced to integrate. They've been working for 50 years to pay back for that. And now they want to use the Civil Rights Act and the Civil Rights era legislation against people of color to re-empower the white Christian agenda. Okay. And they're doing this purposely. It's why they made up CRT. They went after DEI. They are specifically attacking anything that helps people of color, anything having to do with equity or affirmative action. They are on the attack because their ultimate goal is to use the Civil Rights Act legislation to punish black people and people of color and to have their immigration Gestapo terrorize people of color so they can reestablish white Christian nationalism as it existed in the 1940s. And yeah, the fact that he is black and gay is like bowling a strike, bro. It's like a gutter ball that jumped in and knocked down all the pins. So this is very targeted.
All of those are potential predicates for additional federal charges.
Harmeet, I've just pulled up the Klan Act because this is the first time that I've heard this mentioned. This is a act that was passed in 1871. Correction.
Again, guys, right? Look at that shit. The Klan Act from 1871. They're going back to the Reformation after slavery, right? All of their shit they're trying to pull back from the slave days, guys. Every law, the 𝗲𝗄𝗎, right? They're always going back to the 1800s. They're so obvious, bro.
There to combat the Ku Klux Klan and protect African Americans' voting rights, especially the Enforcement Act, which is known as the Force Act. So here's some of the information on screen. Would you mind breaking down for us?
Yeah.
Because we have just read the FACE Act and how this is in
break it down, Fivehead. Come on.
The FACE Act, an obvious and egregious demonstrable violation of the FACE Act because they were entering a place of worship, harassing and threatening. We just played a video of a bearded man, who was threatening to attack Christians that were worshiping there.
Threatening to attack the Christians, guys. Christians are under attack. They took away Christmas, and they like the transgender people got a holiday, and somebody made you use pronouns. No!
So it seems like an obvious FACE Act violation, but the Klan Act here, it is on screen. First time I've heard it mentioned. Can you unpack this for us, Harmeet?
Yeah, the Klan Act is one of the most important federal civil rights statutes, and it goes back to the time when President Lincoln emancipated the slaves, and yet the southern states, Dixiecrats mainly, were refusing to give them equal rights. And in fact,
by the way, hold on, guys, because she said Dixiecrats. Okay, I just want to put this in perspective because she's going to talk about Southern Democrats. And she said Dixiecrats. So I want to pull up this little thing here because I want to show you this guy, Strom Thurmond. He was a very, long-standing member of Congress, but I want to show you that he was Democratic until 1964. And then after the Civil Rights Act, that Southern Democrat, he was from South Carolina, he then switched to Republican in 1964. Because the Southern Democrats became the modern Republican Party in 1964. And this was the guy who started the Dixiecrats. And yes, he was a Klan member. Okay, he was Southern Democrat KKK because there was the Southern Democrats KKK. They were the KKK. And then in 1964, when the Democrats started doing civil rights legislation, Democrats that had been led earlier by JFK and other people, all of these Southern Democrat Dixiecrats, they switched to the modern day Republican Party. So the party that Harmeet Dhillon is in, and the party that Benny Johnson is in, and the party that Donald Trump is in, and Kristi Noem and Stephen Miller and all these motherfuckers is the Dixiecrats and the Southern Democrats pre-1964, okay? They are the modern day Republican Party, and MAGA are the Dixiecrats of today, okay? So to put it in perspective, okay, these are the Dixiecrats,